After graduating in the 70s, he quickly found his footing in the Los Angeles comedy scene, performing on The Gong Show, a brief appearance in The Blues Brothers, and joining the legendary troupe The Groundlings. It was during the...
Whenever I see individuals that get big off of a fictional character that they play, it always makes me curious as to what the relationship of Pee-wee was to Paul himself. You know, like, was he always having to play a character in situations where he didn't want to? Alright guys, for the very first time ever, I'm going to be diving into the evolution of Pee-wee Herman on the channel. This is an individual that I only recently just came across, and he was one that I was very confused by. He seems like he's an adult playing a character of a child. I don't know. Like, you guys wanted me to look more deeper into him. I came across him on the dating game, and I was so confused, and that's what led to this curiosity trail right now, guys. But look, I'm excited to dive into this one, find out a bit more about the man himself. Of course, if you're on this channel, don't forget to subscribe to channel 6K, as you can see above me. Join me on this journey of curiosity, and don't forget to smash that like button, guys. Help boost these videos in the algorithm. You guys know the support is always appreciated. But of course, guys, look, with that being said, let's get straight into this one, shall we? Let's go.
The 1980s brought us a heap of pop culture. Some may argue more lasting pop culture than any other decade. And one of the most unexpected icons of the decade came in the form of a boy named Pee-wee. How does a two-dimensional comedy character become one of the most famous people in Hollywood within just a few years, and launch the career of a world-famous director? Today on Retro Ruckus, we attempt to find out.
Alright, let's see. Let's see how this turns out.
Growing up in the 50s, Paul Reubens often found himself in front of a new invention called television, religiously tuning into shows like I Love Lucy, The Mickey Mouse Club, Captain Kangaroo, and Howdy Doody.
Look at all the boys and girls there at home. Hi, kids! And kids in the gallery, what time is it? Okay, let's sing it.
When his family moved to Sarasota, Florida, many of his neighbors were performers for the Ringling Brothers Circus, where Paul quickly became a frequent visitor. There's no doubt that these influences led him to become the oddball we know and love. Despite his parents' initial resistance, he pursued a career in entertainment, performing...
Wow, this already, I feel like you're already seeing the stones, or the stage that was being set, no pun intended, which led him to the Pee-wee that seems to have been known by so many of you guys watching. Okay, alright, interesting.
Despite his parents' initial resistance, he pursued a career in entertainment, performing in plays in his backyard and eventually at a local theater. He moved to California, as all actors do, and worked restaurant and salesman jobs while studying acting at the California Institute of the Arts.
Okay.
After graduating in the 70s, he quickly found his footing in the Los Angeles comedy scene, performing on The Gong Show, a brief appearance in The Blues Brothers, and joining the legendary troupe The Groundlings. It was during these weekly performances that Paul found his comedic voice, and began harnessing this one.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
Interesting.
In one Groundling show,
I find that when I first heard that voice, I thought it was so creepy, but I didn't know the context, so like, I guess it will be explained in this, but yeah, it's interesting to see how he got to where he got to. I feel like I've seen the end of the story. I'm trying to figure out how we got there.
Harnessing this one.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
In one Groundling show, the cast was performing as characters you might see at a comedy club. Paul, however, was not a fan of performing stand-up comedy. His bits and characters were often on the absurd side. So he made his character a failing comedian, terrible at delivering jokes and responding to hecklers with the phrase,
I know you are, but what am I?
You're a nerd.
I know you are, but what am I?
You're an idiot.
I know you are, but what am I?
I know you are, but what am I?
He donned a...
Is that where that whole "I know you are, what am I" obnoxious response to someone, like, you know, being mean or heckling you, whatever it is, comes from? Because when I was really, really young, I remember for some reason my mom told me, like, if anybody ever, like, you know, insults you, just reply to them with, I know you are, but what am I? And it just ended up, like, back in kindergarten, or at least when I was like 4 or 5, that was like the ultimate response to anybody who tried to insult you. It was just like, it just won you every argument. Like, if this is where that comes from, that's actually insane.
A suit borrowed from Groundlings director Gary Austin, a red bow tie from a friend, and the name of a harmonica Paul had as a child. and Pee-wee Herman was born.
Interesting.
Fast forward a few years later. When Paul was rejected from Saturday Night Live, he figured his comedy career was over. On the brink of moving back home to Sarasota, he remembered that weird little comedian man he portrayed that was so popular a few years back. Maybe something was there. He borrowed some money from his parents and worked with fellow groundlings Phil Hartman and John Paragon to revive the Pee-wee character into his own stage show. They drew inspiration from 50s children's shows like Howdy Doody, and tooled the character's angsty rebellion into that of an ageless child, mixing in elements of joy, wonder, and of course, absurdity.
Well, good morning. How do you do? Lots of surprises are just waiting for you. On your mark, get ready, get set. Now go, 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 go. Because it's time for the Pee-wee Herman Show.
The Pee-wee Herman Show follows a boy named Pee-wee living in a playhouse in Puppet Land. He talks to the audience like they're children who've tuned into his show, while interacting with friendly neighbors like Terry the Pterodactyl, Captain Carl, and Miss Yvonne. While parodying a kiddie show, the play was written for the groundlings crowd and included a slew of adult jokes and sexual innuendos. After an hour of educational segments and some audience interaction...
Okay, groundlings. I know he's mentioned this show in this video already, but I feel like I might need to know a bit more about what that was about. If you guys want to just like give me a brief summary about what that was about, because he said that this Pee-wee show was for that crowd, and that show seems to have been popular like sexual innuendos. So this was like he said, a parody of a kid show. It wasn't actually a kid show. So I was gonna say, if that was a kid show with those innuendos, that's mad. But my thing is that even if it's a parody of a kid show, it's like, why, like, the adults watch this? Like, what's the demographic, what's the target audience for this kind of stuff? And if it is like young adults or older adults, why would you want to watch a grown man pretending to be a child and talking to you like children? Maybe I'd have to watch the show to understand a bit more. But like, yeah, like, what was the appeal of that?
And included a slew of adult jokes.
Like, wouldn't that just be better off just being a kid's show and then you just actually making it like suitable for kids? Am I tripping? You guys get what I'm trying to say? Anyway,
a kiddie show, the play was written for the groundlings crowd and included a slew of adult jokes and sexual innuendos. After an hour of educational segments and some audience interaction, the show ends with Jambi the Genie granting Pee-wee's wish to fly, ending in a musical number in which he proclaims,
I'm the luckiest boy in the world.
Okay.
Can you imagine going to a random comedy show and then seeing this? I would be mind blown. The play premiered in 1981 with midnight performances at the Groundlings Theater to a confused but mostly adoring audience. Critics praised its avant-garde style, unique set design, and described Paul Reubens as the weirdest comedian around.
Right.
Like all bizarre things, it picked up a devoted cult following, moving to the Roxy Theater in Los Angeles, where it sold out for 5 months straight, and where HBO filmed the show as a comedy special, pushing Pee-wee into the mainstream.
That's
it was
impressive.
at this point that Paul decided to abandon his real name and absorb the Pee-wee Herman persona as a full-time gig, making appearances in TV shows.
I seen with Robin Williams. Wow, this guy, okay, he seemed like he was really big at a point. I don't know.
Pee-wee Herman persona as a full-time gig, making appearances in TV shows, movies.
Mate, him and Robin Williams together, I've seen Robin. That's a crazy combination. Like, I could just imagine when Robin Williams is getting into his like improvisational, like acting out characters, and then combine that with Pee-wee and his character. Oh, if there's any of the bits of those two together, I need to see that. That's a wild combination.
And regularly being featured on Late Night with David Letterman, who once remarked, "What makes me laugh is that it has the external structure of a bratty little precocious kid, but you know it's being controlled by the incubus, the manifestation of evil itself." Constantly in character and popping up everywhere in the comedy world, Pee-wee Herman had unpredictably become the absurdist icon of the era.
Wow.
So much of an icon that Warner Brothers commissioned a full-length feature film. Films based on a single comedy character were a common thing at this time. Films that were successful at bringing comedy characters to the screen were way less common. How do you take this flamboyant and tempered man-child and write an entertaining 90-minute movie? That is the question Paul attempted to answer in an office on the Warner Brothers studio lot. Did I mention that he had never written a screenplay before? the odds were not in this movie's
Wow.
favor. Halfway through penning his first draft, Paul became distracted by something outside of his office. Bicycles. Something you'll see regularly on studio backlots is employees biking around to whatever set or office they're headed to. Paul jokingly asked Warner Brothers when he would get his, and as a gift, they gave him one, a refurbished 1940 Schwinn. He instantly fell in love. Paul then threw out his first draft and worked with collaborators Phil Hartman and Michael Varhol to start a new script, all about the bike.
A new script about the bike, okay.
With this new script, the search was on to find a director who could match the twisted sensibilities of Pee-wee's humor and heart. In 1984, Paul attended his friend Shelley Duvall's screening, a short film made by Disney called Frankenweenie. He immediately knew that whoever its director was would be perfect at bringing Pee-wee to the screen. Warner Brothers agreed, and on a whim, they hired a young newcomer by the name of Tim Burton. Burton amplified the kitsch style and absurd humor of the Pee-wee stage show by adding nightmare sequences, stop-motion animation, and unique set design to the film, elements that fit perfectly in the world of Mr. Herman. When it came to who would compose the music of a story this grand, Paul had an unconventional idea, the frontman of his favorite band, Oingo Boingo. After attending a few concerts, Burton agreed, and rockstar
Oingo Boingo. Why does that feel so fitting for someone like as bizarre as Pee-wee Herman's character? Like already everything is just like from how it's being described, it just sounds as if it's the bizarreness of it. Like that because it's so abstract, I feel like that's the point so far of, you know, at least for this time, like considering now it's probably something that isn't normal. Like it's definitely something that's probably pushing the boundaries in certain in that comedic world. Do you know, it kind of makes me think about like the modern day streamers where you have individuals like, I don't know, Aisha Speed, who are so far like unhinged, whatever, and that is the appeal. Like people always wonder why people watch these kinds of characters, but I think because they're so far gone, you're kind of intrigued to see how far they're gonna go with some of their feats, to the point where, you know, you do end up building a big cult fan base audience with that kind of character, which is interesting. Like, I feel like what I'm trying to say is that for some reason, from what it sounded like, I feel like Pee-wee Speed is like the modern day version of Pee-wee in some sense. If you guys know who Speed is and you can kind of see what I'm talking about, let me know if you think that is true or not. I'd love to know what you guys think about that.
And Oingo Boingo. After attending a few concerts, Burton agreed, and rock star Danny Elfman reluctantly took on the task of writing his first ever film score. This is what you call the stars aligning, folks.
Right.
Each of these artists' sensibilities collided to make the big screen debut of the world's unlikeliest hero.
Oh.
I meant to do that.
Was that actually him or a stunt double?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure is a simple movie on the surface. When Pee-wee's beloved bike goes missing, he embarks on a journey through America and his imagination to find it, leading to a wild chase through Warner Brothers itself before becoming a hero and a big Hollywood star. Throw in a romantic pursuer,
Hi, Pee-wee.
an antagonist,
You'll be sorry, Pee-wee Herman.
hilarious stops at every turn,
Hey, man, we don't take kindly to strangers coming around here.
Oh.
wacky side characters, an iconic dance
Jumped off the
sequence,
train. Whoa.
slapstick humor,
He's gonna go through the thing, isn't he? Wow.
endless quotable scenes,
The stars at night are big and bright.
That's so funny.
Danny Elfman's
What?
offbeat score,
Like they just all randomly just start joining in sync. Like what?
Danny
What is
Elfman's
that
offbeat
from?
score, and Tim Burton's unique style,
It looked like this.
and you've got a movie like no one has ever seen before, or since. Just like Pee-wee Herman himself, the film almost immediately took on a loyal cult following, receiving positive reviews from critics and maintaining a #3 spot at the box office for 6 weeks in a row. While it never outshined its competition, a movie about a time-traveling DeLorean, it eventually grossed $40 million on a humble $7 million budget, and has retained its cult classic status ever since. Its success led Warner Brothers to offer Tim Burton another film, a little movie called Beetlejuice, launching his career as one of Hollywood's top directors, a position he still holds to this very day. Danny Elfman has continued to score almost all of Burton's films, composing music for over 100 Hollywood projects.
Whoa, all right. Yo, those are some serious movies as well. Pee-wee Herman's, what's that even titled? Pee-wee Herman's Big Adventure. Okay. And you got Rodney Dangerfield's, I've seen this one, Back to School. What else have I seen? I've seen Good Will Hunting. I've seen this. I don't think I've seen that. There's some Spider-Man. Wow. There's some serious movies in there. Wow. That's the name of it.
As for Pee-wee, he used the movie's success to revive his original stage play as a genuine morning kids show for all ages, Pee-wee's Playhouse, which won 15 Emmys during its run and cemented the character as a pop culture sensation. And perhaps best of all, in 1985, Pee-wee Herman hosted his own episode of Saturday Night Live, only a few years after Paul Reubens was rejected from the cast.
Right, full circle.
That's showbiz, baby. On paper, a Pee-wee Herman movie never should have worked. It was a low-budget comedy by a first-time director, scored by a first-time movie composer, with a script written by first-time screenwriters about a character who had never even had a leading role on television, let alone a big-screen movie. But ironically, those exact aspects are the very reason that it thrived. Rather than making a movie for fans of the stage show, Paul Reubens wrote a story that introduced Pee-wee to the world, with jokes that were funny whether you knew the character or not. Instead of choosing a director and composer already known for their work in Hollywood, Paul picked promising young weirdos who would use their unique styles to help the story flourish as a true work of art. Not only is Pee-wee's Big Adventure timelessly funny, it's a time capsule of a few young artists sharing their absurdity with the world. And that is how a boy named Pee-wee evolved from the stage to the big screen.
Wow.
Come on, Dottie. Let's go.
Let's go. Don't you want to see the rest of the movie?
I don't have to see it, Dottie. I lived it.
That's a line. I like what we did at the end with the editing. Pee-wee's definitely a character that is abstract and definitely sparks my curiosity and intrigue. But interestingly enough, whenever I see individuals that get big off of a fictional character that they play, it always makes me curious as to what the relationship of Pee-wee was to Paul himself. Because, a lot of times you see when a lot of these celebrities just get known as that one thing, like that could have adverse effects on the actual individual themselves. So, was he always having to play a character in situations where he didn't want to? I'll also be very curious to kind of just see what his relationship was like with the whole Pee-wee stuff. Like, I just had to dive a little bit deeper into who this man was. If you guys want me to check out some more clips from him, let me know. Look, I'd obviously love to know as well just how much this impacted you guys. How much was Pee-wee a character in your early years or just in general? But yeah, guys, let me know what you thought about this reaction. That's my reaction. Let me know if there might have been any parts that I may have misunderstood or missed. And do you also think this story was also, telling of the Pee-wee story was accurate? Do you feel like there's some parts that maybe could have been showcased with more or highlighted more? Do you think there's parts that might have been missed out? I also love to know what you guys think about that in that sense. But of course, guys, if you made this point, you guys are the realest of the real. Comment down 8 green hearts. I know who my raw ones are. Or #flexer. For those guys that don't have emojis. And if you do want to see my very first time checking out Pee-wee on a dating show or the dating game, I'll leave that video linked at the end of this one. But of course, guys, look, stay tuned for more of these deep dives. I'm your boy JayFlex, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Voice crack. Always a voice crack at the end of the video, man. Wow. Can't go one video without a voice crack.